Raise your edge, very happy with that pickup. As soon as he got picked up by a new team, win after win after win. He's been in finals for Lima League. He's been doing great in the EPTs as well. The kid is a monster.
Yep, and I gotta say though, today it's actually kind of a miracle how he just wins all these games where you're like, I think he's in trouble, and I thought he was in trouble in both Game 2 and even Game 3 a little bit against Reynor as well. And even earlier, I can't show everything on the laptops, right? But he had a really funny moment against Rogue when they played on Simulacrum, because he opened up with a bunch of adapts like he always does, and Rogue actually defended it really well because he just kind of expected it, he scouted it. Then Zest followed this up with 3 Dark Templars and the War Prism, but the War Prism was in a very dangerous spot, so he had to send it very far away. And obviously you don't want to lose 3 DTs, right? So Zest wants to save the 3 Dark Templars with recall. One of them dies, but because he moved the other 2 Dark Templars into an Archon, I think he missed the recall, so the Archon died as well. Absolute disaster of a start. And at that point Rogue is like, well, cool, I'm done. And Zest is like, well, actually, like, that Prism was pushed away so far that maybe I'll just try the Prism in the main. Warps in 2 Dark Templars, kills 10 drones, a Queen, a Spore Crown. I'm like, how is this happening? You know, like, everything was a disaster, and now suddenly you're in a good spot.
And it was even more effective against Reynor. He's getting tons of DT damage getting that warp in the main base.
Yeah, you just, I mean, even earlier, right? He had to warp him in at home or wait for the second Prism. He's like, lost the first Prism. He's like, well, maybe that will work out well for me, and somehow it did. Now, obviously, guys, we know PvP, especially Korean PvP, they like to proxy. I feel like if you drop the proxy on the low ground, it's often Stargate, but this time actually that's not the case. It's the Robo as well. Maybe it feels like if you would have done it on the other side of the rocks, it's a little too obvious, right? Like that is a spot that does get scouted very often. This is not ideal for an Immortal. Obviously a War Prism doesn't care about those rocks.
Exactly, so I was just about to say the exact same thing. With the Robo being so far away and scouted, by the way, by ShoWTimE, that is a big edge there.
Stargate immediately.
Yeah, nice move from Zest. So Zest is basically going to try and mind game ShoWTimE a little bit here and switch gears. Basically, Stargate is the anti-Robo opener.
Yep, this is actually kind of fun because I'm very curious to see how ShoWTimE tackles this. I'd be surprised if ShoWTimE has the confidence to drop a Nexus now. It kind of seems like that's almost going to be the case. No, instead he's going to go for 1 my gateway. I'm happy to see that, man, because like you can do it, but it's risky. Now ShoWTimE is going to check to see if that Robo's still there. The answer is no, and now he's also going to be able to start working on that pylon from the high ground. So this is really cool, and now I do think that ShoWTimE can expand because he knows that Zest invested in a proxy that he then cancelled.
And he does exactly that. So with the Stargate play here from Zest, early Oracles to try and get himself some probe kills, a little bit of information from ShoWTimE as well, who is going to have the more economical edge at the start of this game, and sentries as well to make sure that he is safe from whatever Zest throws at him on the ground.
Yeah, so far obviously like nothing game-breaking yet, but you got to be loving this start. If you're ShoWTimE at this point, you know that the tech is going to be quite underdeveloped on the side of Zest. You know you have a quicker Nexus, and on top of that, I like adapts, but adapts are so-so, right? Like the longer the game goes, the less impactful they're going to be, unless maybe you go for a big Resonating Glaives attack, but it's unlikely that they eventually find a lot of damage, so you kind of always hope to get the damage early, or maybe like right when ShoWTimE is spread over 2 bases, then maybe an Oracle in the main, and then adapts in the natural. But I'm always happy if I'm defending against adapts and I take 0 damage. I'm like, hey, this is cool, because I know you have no answer for 4 Stalkers right now.
Well, there's definitely enough here from Zest to fight back the 4 Stalkers of ShoWTimE. Just doing a little bit of chip damage to that Nexus, getting whatever he can out of it. Every single edge matters.
Does he have anything?
First Oracle going to the main base, 3 sentries waiting for it. The Stalker kind of on Smoker right now, not really assisting. There we go, coming in to assist. Not really any damage from the Oracle, just a little bit of hit points. Zest trying to pick off a unit or 2 here. A couple hurt Stalkers on the backside.
Yep, this Adapt's actually going to try to be annoying, try to block it, gets another shot on that 1 Stalker as well. That second Oracle also heading towards the main base. Yeah, the Adapt is probably going to get the kill, right? Especially if he gets in front of the Stalker.
Not quite.
1 more hit. Oh, the Oracle's going to show up instead. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
ShoWTimE got a little over-eager and Zest is punishing. ShoWTimE sticking around just a little bit too long. He gets all of them.
That's massive there. So it doesn't feel like it is because both players are still, you know, they both got 2 Nexi and they both still got an army technically, but that trade was incredible for Zest. And he's gotten rid of every single presence of ShoWTimE on this map, which means the map is now Zest's.
Yep, ShoWTimE obviously still does have that economic lead, and that is very nice. But because he lost so many Stalkers, he doesn't have that much anti-air. Now he needs to warp in even more Stalkers, and I don't think that's something he wants to do, because I find it unlikely he's gonna go Blink here.
Yeah, it seems like they're already starting to switch gears into that more standard Protoss army where you start to get your +1 attack, you know, Twilight Council, that sort of thing, and go into the mid-game army. No real tech being thrown down for each player just yet. It's still basically just Robo. Stargate's also dormant for Zest. He's kind of done just making oracles for now, leaving those first two alive. There's the first Twilight going down for ShoWTimE.
Yeah, it's a bit of a dilemma right now for ShoWTimE, I think, because ideally you don't want to go Blink, you want to go Charge, because that's way more powerful in the battle. On the other end, there are still two oracles flying around. And how likely is it that you're going to catch oracles from Zest if you don't have Blink? That's gonna be tough. But if you ever want to move out, you're also gonna have to leave some units behind. Maybe just leave Stalkers behind. He's like, well, they won't add that much into the battle anyway. It's gonna be a War Prism on the way now for ShoWTimE as well. I'm really curious. I think he just goes Charge here.
Yeah, I think Charge makes sense because he wants to go to the Archon phase. He's have a Prism with his army. There's that Charge for ShoWTimE, and there's the Templar Archive. So Charge on Immortal Archon on the way here for the German Protoss. Zest Twilight Council quite a bit later. So it feels like Zest can't really go out and do anything to ShoWTimE for a while. It's probably gonna be a little bit of a lull in the action.
Yeah, but he does still have those oracles, right? And
yeah,
I don't know if ShoWTimE wants to go up to or to the other side of the map and attack. I think it would make a lot more sense actually for ShoWTimE to drop that Nexus maybe a little bit quicker and not necessarily build like 10 more probes, but at least have that option there, right? And then especially if you start mining out the main, then maybe you can start transferring a couple of workers. Because I find attacking here very risky. Because what do you want to do? You want to leave 8 or 10 supply at home to deal with those oracles? That just doesn't really seem that ideal.
First Prism from ShoWTimE getting tagged by those oracles, not with a tag, but actually just being followed around, so can't really do a whole lot with it, and actually does get tagged in the end. So ShoWTimE clearly wanted to go for a little bit of Archon damage there without Zest knowing about it. He's got plenty of information. That Prism is all the way in the middle of the map, and both players have got very good ideas of what's happening on each side. It's very, very hard to keep anything a secret at this point in a PvP.
There is that Nexus from ShoWTimE. Now, probing up is very dangerous in this matchup. We've seen so many Protoss players who go like, oh, 55 probes, and then your opponent is still on 45, and they just have a few more Zealots, maybe an additional Archon, and that is just going to make all the difference. I do like that ShoWTimE fired up +2 immediately, and if Zest doesn't do that in the next 10-15 seconds, I have the feeling that he doesn't want to do it at all, and Zest is actually going to be the big aggressor in this game.
Yes, well, he starts +2 now, so it feels like ShoWTimE has the tech edge, and of course the extra Nexus being around the same time as Zest, no real edge there. But just having it a little bit further along in the tech tree means he's very likely going to have more Archons, the earlier +2 attack.
Whoa.
He's got a window there. Try to grab that War Prism. It's an Archon battle.
This is so weird, actually. I mean, obviously
it's one of those weird PvP things.
Yep, nothing should go down here with that War Prism hovering above those Archons. Actually, that went all right for ShoWTimE, because Zest lost way more shields. Now, of course, shields do regenerate, but that means you don't have to worry about these Archons in the next 45 seconds. And right as I say that, he sends him back. Hey, you've got like 20 HP on both those things. Okay.
It's because this one Archon's one shot.
Yeah,
Zest really wants it.
Yeah, I get it, but a little too risky, I think, if you ask me. ShoWTimE is starting to get a couple of cannons, slowly but steady build a few probes. Zest is moving out while still building probes at home. And don't forget that he started his +2 quite a bit later, so he's got to be very careful. Purposes of this.
Maybe try and get some probes there if they're stacked up on some Zealot shots, but I think Zest is trying to be in ShoWTimE's face and maybe, you know, see if there's an opening in his defenses. At the moment, it looks really solid. I mean, he is the wall.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it could be fake aggression as well, right? He's like, if I were you, I'd be really worried, man. I'm like right here. But actually, Zest has been able to squeeze out a little bit of a worker lead. It's not massive, but hey, 5 probes over time will actually make a difference.
Yeah, you're not wrong. These two Oracles still being a constant thorn in the side of ShoWTimE, and without a Stargate or anything, can't really pick it up. ShoWTimE going to try going up the ramp here. He's got a lot of charge lots. The Archons of Zest all in the battle, though. They're really just hammering into these charge lots.
I actually don't think that was good by ShoWTimE at all. His Archons were way too far behind. He lost so many Zealots before these Archons even showed up. And even though a couple of Archons from Zest were low on HP, and that means that on the left side they are actually quite weak, I think ShoWTimE just threw away way too many Zealots there. The Oracles will show up as well, and they will help out. Oh no, ShoWTimE, that was not good.
Not good at all. Zest takes game number 1. I mean, the Zealot is so much faster now. That thing is always going to be leading the pack, and it just charged into a concave of 4 Archons. That's never going to go well for you. Even if you have way more charge lots, Archons are really the counter in PvP.
They were so far ahead of the party. Like, if your Zealots are a little bit further ahead, and you can maybe actually get some good surface area on Archons, because Zest's Zealots were also expected this group to be a little bit all over the place, right? Like, maybe Zest does beat a Reyna, but maybe Reyna beats Rogue, and then Rogue beats Zest, you know, something along those lines. You expected some crazy stuff to happen. And obviously this PvP series is not done yet, but if Zest takes this one as well, he is looking incredibly good to take first place.
Yeah, Reyna was on a 4-0 streak in the group to start things off with. In fact, even at the start of the series with Zest, Reyna was 5-0.
Yep.
But then the next 2 maps went the Protoss' way, and he was the first guy to upset the Italian Stallions' run.
I mean, obviously, it is very important to finish first. The top 3 does advance into the playoffs, but the way it works is the 4 group winners will be seeded immediately into the quarterfinals, while the second place finisher of, let's say, Group A has to go up against the third place finisher of Group B and vice versa. So, you know, finishing first, second or third is actually a pretty big difference.
Yeah, absolutely right. Zest actually dropping another pylon out in a weird spot. So it looks very similar to Nightshade, where you get a pylon not near your opponent, but in a place where you could potentially put something like, say, a Robo or a Stargate. And even though it's far away, as long as your opponent doesn't know it's there, can be extremely effective.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to use this one. I feel like this is too awkward of a spot to build a Robo. It's too risky, right? Because you don't ever want to lose your Robo. Stargate is a possibility, but I don't think he's going to use it at all.
No, the probe isn't even there.
Yep. It's just like one of those moments where you hope ShoWTimE is in your main base and ShoWTimE spots only a single pylon, which is exactly the case here. But ShoWTimE is not crazy. He also knows that this is part of the mind games in PvP. Just because a pylon is missing doesn't necessarily mean that Zest is also dropping tech somewhere out on the map.
Yeah, quite right. This matchup is really so mind-gamey. So many ways to instantly die and so many different counters, so you have to, you know, information is key. Feels more so in this matchup than any of the other matchups in StarCraft. Obviously, scouting is always important. In PvP, you can just instantly die if you don't know what's coming at you and you have the wrong preparation. He sees that pylon, nothing there though, so ShoWTimE's just going to proceed his build as normal.
It's funny because these maps are big. It's actually hard to find these things, right? Like obviously if you watch the Fog of War, you're like, oh, just go there and then you find it. But if you're actually playing, it feels like there are so many tiny little corners to spot. These guys are so freaking good that they just seem to always find what's out there.
And Zest is just going to start that natural nexus a little bit quicker. Both players going for an expansion build, so a very standard opening for both players. And it looks like they're going to be heading towards the mid-game without too much scuffles. I mean, it seems like they're too good to just throw 2 Stalkers away. That's the only way I could see this going any quicker, but...
No, that kind of a pylon, that's a little more dicey. I can see him maybe warping an extra gateway there, but it could also just be for a couple of adepts eventually to be warped in. But I think there's a good chance that Zest wants to get a little bit eager. I find this risky by ShoWTimE to go to the other side of the map, up a ramp, extra sentry show up as well. The micro are really good so far on both sides, I gotta say. And I think this is going to be a trade, but it's very close. Actually, it's not a trade. Oh, but he doesn't even get the other one.
Yeah, that Stalker was one shot. Zest is still on a chain.
But I hope he's paying attention, because if those 2 adepts of Zest show up in the main base of ShoWTimE, Maynard, it will be a disaster.
Oh, loses that Stalker during the recall. Also a little bit annoying for ShoWTimE. He does have a probe in position here to wall it off, but he has to be looking at the right place at the right time. 2 adepts shading forward. They're going to try for the main. Wall off is good, so actually cancel that shade here. ShoWTimE trying to do the same thing. Zest not looking. He's going to go for the recall to bring some units back home to try and save that mineral line, and I think he should be fine.
Yep, he's actually dropping a force field as well, so the adept just couldn't run down. ShoWTimE wants to get a sentry, does get a sentry. You know, it's funny, if Zest would have just shaded into the natural wall.
A shade behind the force field, and he's stuck in there, nowhere to go. You can shade through the force field, but it's too late for these adepts. They go down. I think he picked up a few probes there, which is nice.
You know, if Zest would have just shaded into the natural instead of trying to get into the main, there were like 6 or 7 probes there and 1 Stalker. There was actually just as much of a jackpot in the natural as there was in the main base. Zest does have a War Prism though, and don't forget that ShoWTimE lost quite a few units. ShoWTimE is also investing in +1, and he cancels it immediately because he's realizing what is happening, but is it too late, Maynard?
He's scrambling his defenses here, and it needs to be good. Shield batteries are on the way to may not cut the mustard here. Zest is coming with a lot more than that behind with that War Prism. You juggle things around. He's got force fields to daze as well. Doesn't want upgrades to be the reason he loses another game here. Would love to close this out with a 2-1. So if ShoWTimE does win this series, he actually has a pretty good shot of getting out of Group B.
Yeah, absolutely. At least totally in the running, and that's a good feeling as well. Unfortunately for Zest, this War Prism is spotted already by the Observer. That's not something he's aware of. ShoWTimE on the other end is going to warp in a couple of Archons in the left bottom side of the map. We'll see what he decides to do with that. What if ShoWTimE is the one actually going to try to take a fight with +1, or will he also start +2 immediately?
Well, he has seen the Forge spinning for Zest with his scouting, his hallucinated phoenixes, so he's going to take a third here. Usually doesn't look like he wants to move out, but with the Prism and the 2 Archons, he can still do damage here while leaving his army at home.
It's quite a bit later, right? Zest doing the exact same thing, but don't forget that ShoWTimE is aware of this warp-in on the left top side of Zest.
Yeah, he saw it there with the Observer. So he's been watching it for a while. He warped in Stalkers into the main, so they're probably still there ready to fight. Wants to chase down these sentries. That's 100 gas apiece if he can pick them off.
Shield batteries are good, but eventually will run out of energy, so it's important for Zest to bring a couple of extra units here, and that is exactly what he's done. These fights are just kind of weird. The War Prism is actually heading home for now.
Yeah. It's interesting. I would have thought that Zest would at least try to grab that
What if he wants to intercept
Prism! Prism!
Yeah.
He's actually recalled the last one, doesn't have enough breathing room to sack it up into the Prism, and I think it actually got saved.
Yeah, I can't believe it. He saved both. That was a bit sloppy there by ShoWTimE, not paying attention. I think he thought he sent his Warp Prism away, but it was actually just chilling near all those Stalkers. That's obviously very dangerous. Zest, his +2, is quite close to finishing up Maynard, and maybe this was the moment he was waiting for all along, even though when we say that, he's still building a couple of workers. So Zest doesn't have to go super crazy here. Can we take a look at the Archon count? Is it, that's pretty even, because the fourth one is morphing. I like how he's pushing it with the battle already. Now obviously there is a moment, but Zest is gonna have +2, and ShoWTimE will only have +1 on his units.
He's gonna have +2 for about 20 more seconds than ShoWTimE here, so his army is, you know, maybe doesn't have enough, as many Archons, but they are more powerful. But ShoWTimE's got the spread of shield batteries at the third base.
Yep.
So that's actually a really good spot to fight here for ShoWTimE defensively, and this is exactly where he wants to fight here.
Yep, one extra Archon as well. Don't forget there is a defensive Warp Prism. ShoWTimE should be able to survive here, even if he's down an upgrade. He had a concave, and shield batteries are so good in PvP fights.
ShoWTimE is annihilating this attack from Zest so far. I mean, obviously it's not over. Zest has an Archon on the left-hand side doing damage to the Stalkers, but his Archons are ruling the day over at third base. Shield batteries out of juice, so all these Archons are pretty low. ShoWTimE still moving them forward. Might want to knock them back here. Obviously the Colossus are hallucination. They're actually not assisting at all other than being tanking line. And ShoWTimE cleans him up. One Archon just by the skin of its teeth. Is that a 2 hit point Archon, and they only have 10 hit points. So that is a lucky Archon right there.
That was pretty crazy. I actually think the moment that Zest saw how prepared ShoWTimE was and that he was warping in extra batteries, and if you're down an Archon, like having an upgrade advantage is awesome. Obviously eventually ShoWTimE caught up. But I think being down an Archon, you're also the one who has to engage, so your Zealots are kind of eating the first shots, but especially shield batteries, because, you know, these kind of armies, they don't really have insane DPS to just gun down a unit. It is the dream fight for a shield battery, right? And then don't forget that Archons pretty much only have shields. Warp Prism is there to save those Archons. You pick them up, you drop them next to your shield battery, and you have a full HP Archon again. I think those fights, even if you're Zest and your micro is amazing, are almost impossible to win, so I don't think he should have committed there.
ShoWTimE going to come for another attack here. Speaking of gas and speaking of shields, he is going for shield upgrades here. It's Demour. Zealots attacking into that natural. Zest got a lot of units down here on the low ground though. ShoWTimE still zoning him back, letting him do more damage into that natural. Zest shield batteries drained of energy. ShoWTimE's going to be really careful about getting pincered here from both sides.
Yep, ShoWTimE actually has quite a bit of money in the banks, and maybe he got a little carried away here. He does still have quite a few Archons, and he's going to try to save them. It's still 5 Archons, but he doesn't have that many Zealots anymore, Maynard.
And if you lose those Zealots, Zest absolutely can chase. He's got that Prism. Can potentially try and stop the Warp-ins here, but no, ShoWTimE is going to get another round of Zealots through. Buying more and more time to get that +1 shield upgrades done. It's a very expensive upgrade, but with the Archon advantage and that +1 shield upgrade, he's going to have a much stronger army.
It's so close. I think tiny advantage for ShoWTimE because he has quite a bit of money in the bank, so if he saves that, he has a few more units. Tries to get some economic damage done here as well. But really good defense there by Zest. That was not easy, but Zest stayed very calm and did all the correct things.
+1 armor is done, and ShoWTimE heading to +3. The Forge is quiet here for Zest. He's not continuing along those upgrades, still just concentrating on warping in more and more units. And ShoWTimE's gas has been depleted. He's been spending a lot here, getting more Archons, getting that +3. Still a lot of minerals in the bank, so he can get a big round of Zealots. And at that moment, I feel like ShoWTimE's army is going to be extremely deadly.
Yep, I actually wouldn't mind if ShoWTimE decides to drop a Robo Bay here. Like, he's in a good spot, but I don't know if it's like good enough to run to the other side of the map and take a risky fight near maybe enemy shield batteries, or like just easier defensive warp-ins, and just taking the risk that something goes wrong. So I would actually love to see ShoWTimE drop a Robo Bay here, because he is ahead. It's not by much, but he is a little bit ahead. He's got a couple of things going for himself, so I think sealing the deal here with either Disruptors or Colossi would be fantastic.
I hope Zest doesn't commit to an attack here, because I feel like it might go badly. ShoWTimE still with a lot of energy on his shield batteries, which did not get picked off in the initial attack from Zest. He has an upgrade lead that's about to become a 2-upgrade lead. Oh, I like this. Just a couple Zealots from ShoWTimE to the third base of Zest. Gonna split his multitasking a little bit.
Yep, and this might actually trigger Zest to just go for it as well, but don't forget those batteries are still there.
Oh no, Zest, no.
Yep, he wants to do it. There's so many Archons, and now the Archons of Zest are actually not really participating on the left side there. Finally, they start getting their first shots off. I don't think Zest can do this, man. Those batteries are still there, and there are so many Archons for ShoWTimE.
ShoWTimE is just holding on. The wall will stand here as these Archons get juggled around with that Prism, and he doesn't even need +3 Archons. He is just going to crush through, and ShoWTimE with the big pick off there on